Hello and welcome to my brand new podcast. I'm Nicky Raby and I'm thrilled that you're joining us. I do lots of things. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In this podcast, I want to talk about success, but not in the traditional sense. I want to bring you conversations that discuss success, what it means, and how there are many different versions. We're going to be talking about business, branding, becoming visible, saying no, saying yes, and how you can create a thriving portfolio career doing more of what you love and less of what you don't. Sometimes there can be a certain mystery around the online world, so I'm going to be asking my guests how they started and grew, how they get paid, how they stand out, and how they create success on their terms. As always, please check the show notes for all things we mention and come and say hi over on social media at Nicky Raby or via my website nickyraby.com/podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking to Michelle Stonhill, who is a women's wealth strategist, business coach, and network marketing pro. And she's committed to helping you transform your finances, make more money, and take control of your life. I really wanted to do an entire episode about money, how we make it, how we can invest it, how we can use it, because nobody talks about money and it's such an important topic, especially if you want to be in business. Grab a piece of paper and a pen for this one. There are so many brilliant nuggets. I know I always say that, but if you didn't miss anything, you can go over to the show notes, which is nickyraby.com/podcast. Here's the episode. Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. So, if people don't know you, please start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, where you are in the world. I bet it's a lot warmer than London. And just tell me a little bit more about your business. I'd love that.
No problem. Well, thanks for inviting me on. I'm really excited to share with you today. I've got my sunglasses on at the moment because I'm in Marbella. We moved here 3 weeks ago, which is just incredible. Big goal ticked really, because when I set out in business a few years ago, I really wanted to be location independent. It was never really about loads of riches, if you like. It was more about just, having the lifestyle that I really wanted, which was to be able to work in my garden and work the hours that I want to work and with people who I want to work with, and just have a really abundant, successful life in every area. And it's took, I would say, probably 5 years to get to that point, but I'd say that's where I am now. So I'm grinning from ear to ear as I'm saying this to you. Life is very, very good. I'm very blessed. I'm running multiple businesses, one of which is a coaching business for female entrepreneurs around the topic of two things: money mindset and how to get a handle on how you think, feel and act around the subject of money so that you can attract more of it into your life. And also strategy as well, because the mindset's great, but if you don't know actually what activities you need to do to accumulate the sort of income you want, then you're still stuck. So I cover both of those areas, and that's what I really spend most of my time doing now, because that's where my real passion is.
And how did your entrepreneurial journey begin for you? Was it always in your bones? Were you selling any kind of bits from your mum's kitchen out on the street? My mum was like, "Why are you trying to sell that? That's mine." I was like, "Oh, I thought somebody else would want to buy it." How did it start for you?
Yeah, similar. I would say it's probably always been in my bones, but I did suppress that side of me and resist that side of me, because my story really started, as many people's do, as a child, because I had two influences really that were very opposite ends of the scale in terms of entrepreneurship and wealth. I had my mum's side of the family and my father's side of the family, and my father is a very difficult man to be around. He was very unpredictable, quite aggressive. He struggled with addiction, emotionally switched off, and it was very challenging growing up with him as a father, but he was very entrepreneurial, and he came from a long line of successful business people, entrepreneurs, millionaires. And that was kind of in his blood, if you like. So he always worked for himself and he always did really well. And the opposite to that was my mum's side of the family, and my nan and granddad in particular, that were huge influences, that were just the best people. And I know I'm biased, but just the best people to be blessed to have in my life. Just taught me the importance of being a good human and family values. And
totally.
Yeah, but totally rejected the idea of wealth. And my granddad, bless his heart, used to say things like, oh, they might have money, but they're not happy. And money's the root of all evil. And, you know, if they've got money, they've done something dodgy to get it. And he'd got all these beliefs that I can now see were just beliefs. But, you know, in a child's mind, I'd kind of made this decision that if I was to pursue the path that my dad's side of the family had pursued and to become wealthy and go into business, then I would in some way be letting my granddad down, and I'd probably be less like him and more like my dad. And that was the last thing that I wanted. And, you know, looking back, I can remember people saying things to me sometimes like, oh, you're just like your dad, you think like your dad. And I used to shudder when people said that. I tried desperately to get away from being that. And I think that's what really set me on a bit of a long journey of struggle, really, financially.
It's so emotional, money, and nobody, well, firstly, never talks about it, and certainly we weren't given an education about money at school, and they would sort of say things when we would talk about careers of like, well, you know, you just start with a 20 grand job a year and then you just kind of move on from there or whatever. And I know that I certainly had a belief, because I wanted to go to drama school and be an actor, and still am an actor. I had that sort of, and I was very different from everybody at my school, that I had this almost belief, again, like you say, that just because I was an actor and I was lucky enough to find something that I could do as a job, then it didn't really matter if I didn't get that well paid for it. And that's been quite an interesting journey to grapple with, because certainly I reckon I played small for way too long. I'd love to talk about how, because I know that from the private conversations that we have, that you have a really big vision for your life, and I would say in the norm, probably not in this self-development sort of sphere, that is quite unusual, you know, especially as Brits, we're taught to, you know, just be, or maybe the things that your granddad said, you know, just be grateful for what you have, you know, keep your head down, work hard, don't show off, and just be grateful with your lot. How did you know that you did have that vision for your life, and how did you start to step into that and believe that that was possible for you?
I think everyone really has it. And I think, you know, if we're really honest with ourselves, we all have a big vision, really, but it may have been suppressed because of our beliefs or other people's beliefs that we buy into. And I ignored that for a really long time. And I think the turning point for me that I can clearly pinpoint as being a catalyst was meeting my husband, actually, because he's a business owner. He always has been. He never worked for someone else. He came straight out of education and set up a business, and has been really successful. And when we met, and I looked at him, and I thought, my immediate thought was, I need to watch this one, because is he trustworthy? Like, does he only care about money? Because I think one of my deep-rooted beliefs was that you kind of had to be all consumed by money, and it had to be your main focus and your main drive, and it was like sell your nan to get success sort of attitude.
Yeah. So and also, you're probably not going to be the kind of person who is like going, oh my goodness, he's so, you know, like the typical footballer's wife sort of situation. Like, he buys me nice handbags, so it doesn't matter if I never see him, or he's got 4 other wives, or whatever it might be. You know, you're not that way inclined of going, oh, well, if he just buys me nice stuff, then that will be okay. I remember working for someone years ago, actually, as a nanny, and her husband used to just give her £1,000 in an envelope for Christmas. And I just thought, oh my goodness, even if, like, I became really, I don't know, like in that kind of position, I thought there was something so soulless and awful about it, really. I just kind of felt for her, because it was just a bit like, there you go, love, happy Christmas.
Yeah, and that was the thing. That was, I did not want to become that person. So I I knew I'd met someone special. I knew that I'd connected with somebody in a way that I never had before, but I was almost sabotaging it because, he'd do some amazing things for me when we first met. I mean, I was in a job. I was a retail manager. I was probably earning £1,500 a month and, just getting by. And he'd go all out and spoil me with extravagant gifts. And I was really rude about it. I'd say things like, that's not going to make me love you anymore. That doesn't impress me. I'm not impressed by that. I'm very independent.
Gucci, get out of town.
And but the poor guy was just trying to just trying to win my affection, I suppose, and spoil me and treat me the way he thought I deserved to be treated. But I saw it as him, I guess, trying to control me in some way. And I think again that comes back to my dad was quite controlling with my mum, and he used money as a tool to control. So I resisted that massively. And as I got to know him and let him in slowly, I realised actually this guy's really nice. He's got a lot of the qualities that my granddad has, a lot of the values, he's got both. He's got money, but he's also got, he's a good human. So it kind of smashed my belief system apart because I recognised that you can be both and have both, and it doesn't have to be a choice. So
yes, I have that so much with like mums that I coach. They say things like, I just want to make my bills, or I just want to meet a certain amount because, and then there'll be always kind of an aftermath thought of like, because I want to see my children. And it's like, you can earn really well, but also see your children. Children are up for a lot of hours of the day. They're not going to go, do you know what, Mum, I'm going to take myself off to school today. You don't have to parent. They're around very much so. And this either or mentality, it really held me back for a lot of years.
Me too. And what was really funny was I was watching his work patterns, and I was getting up at 5-6 o'clock in the morning to get on a train and travel into the city and go to this job that I hated with people that I didn't like, and he was still in bed every morning snoring, and I'd call him about 9ish and he'd be having breakfast. And I'd be like, what are you doing today? I'm going to get a bit of shopping, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do a bit of work, then I'm going to do this. And I thought, geez, and at the end of the month he had way more money than me. And I started to think, okay, maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe you can choose your hours and choose who you work with and choose your life as long as you build a business with all of those things in mind.
Yes.
And I think that's the key thing. It's important to know the end game, not just money and not just success in business, but what's the end game for your entire life? What does that look like? Where do you want to be living? What do you want to be doing with your time? How much time do you want to be working? How do you want to be working? We need to ask ourselves all of those questions before we put a business strategy in place, because you can very easily end up creating something that doesn't give you what you want, but that is choice.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think sometimes we're giving this like one version of success, the powerful woman in the bodycon dress, sort of, being a business boss and all of that sort of stuff. But sometimes wealth can show up in a very casual way. I won't say who it is, but there is somebody that I know who is extremely wealthy. Would you know when you had a conversation with him? No, not at all. And there's such a subtlety to his wealth and such a humility. And I guess probably because he came from humble beginnings, so he has that deep-rooted sort of sense of self. He's not just going, right, this is who I am now. He knows that struggle. But it's quite fascinating that actually wealth shows up in different ways.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we just buy into what we think wealth is and what it looks like and what you need to look like to be it. And sometimes that creates internal resistance because we don't want to become that. And I've been through that. My first business, when I decided to walk away from my corporate career and really go for it as an entrepreneur, I did that. I tried to make myself something that I wasn't, and it was inauthentic. It didn't fit. And I found myself buying clothes with labels that I couldn't even pronounce and didn't really do just because they were expensive and other people had said that they were good. And I found myself, drinking in certain bars and eating in certain restaurants where other people would see me, and I could be able to post that on Facebook. And I realised that what I was creating was something so outside of who I really was, my true inner self, my higher self, that it just didn't fit. And because it didn't fit, I stopped respecting me, and I stopped respecting the money I was earning. Therefore, I spent it like it was going out of fashion. So, and that's the other point, you know, my second big lesson, when I'd got over all the money blocks and understood what they were and how to move past them, the second big lesson around money was the financial mastery aspect, because I was earning more than I'd ever earned in my life. I mean, the first year I had a 7-figure income.
Yikes.
It was probably the worst year ever though, Nikki, because that first year I didn't know that I'd earned $1 million. That's the first thing. My accountant told me at the end of the tax year. He said, "This is it. This is your tax bill. This is your VAT bill." And I didn't have the money because I'd just upgraded all of my things. I'd upgraded my house. I'd upgraded my car. I was going on nicer holidays. I was eating steak rather than burger, and I was still broke. And I was still worrying every night about keeping all of the things that I'd accumulated and keeping up this appearance that I'd got now and this lifestyle that I'd become accustomed to. So I was no better off. And what I realised at that point was one of the biggest reasons I worked so hard was to have freedom and peace of mind and a calm, balanced life. And I hadn't got that. And it was because I didn't know how to look after my money. So, you know, if you're earning $1,500 a month like I was, and I wasn't looking after that then either, I was always broke at the end of the month, never saved, never invested. Nothing changes when you're earning $100,000 a month, because
right. It's the same things, it's just different maths.
Of course it is, exactly.
How did that shift happen from that point of the very sweaty conversation with your accountant and sort of figuring that out? How did you then go, okay, big gulp, let's go again? What were the practical steps that you took to move forward? Because you could have easily, I guess, said, oh, maybe being in business is not for me then, I'll just go back to working in a shop.
Yeah, I think the first thing is everything fell apart, and what I can now see is it wasn't falling apart, it was coming together, but at the time it felt like it was falling apart. I think when we experience breakdowns in our life, I genuinely believe it's the universe pushing us in a different direction, and for us to move in that direction, things have to fall apart. And I went bankrupt, so the business went under. I couldn't pay the tax bill, I couldn't pay the VAT bill. As that was happening and the pressure of all of that, it was just like this tidal wave of one thing after another, where I lost quite a lot of contracts in the business that I had. So my income just went to zero overnight. So I was left in just a really awful financial position, and it made me really sit down and take stock of the mistakes that I'd made and therefore the lessons that I'd learned. And what I highlighted was, and I remember sitting for probably 2 or 3 hours with a pen and paper and just decided I'm going to write down everything that's gone wrong, but what I can learn from it and what I will now do differently. And
that was tough.
It was awful, because it takes a really honest look at you and who you've become and the mistakes you've made, which is painful because no one likes to admit that they're wrong, and it's very easy to blame other things, or the VAT's too high in the UK and the tax is ridiculous.
Yes,
let's blame the
bloody government.
But excuse me, the book absolutely stuck with me. It was my decisions, my choices that had led me to that position. So what happened was I looked at it and I thought, okay, my first mistake was I started to build a business. My first business was in events, and it was in nightclub events, and it was the same business that my husband had always run. And it was his passion. He loves promotions. He loved the atmosphere of nightclubs. I hated nightclubs. Even when I was 18, I didn't like them.
They're just so smelly and sticky, or maybe just the ones that I went to. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Awful places to be in, especially when you're sober and you're working. So I thought, why on earth did I start building a business in this industry that is not my passion, not my inner calling, not the thing that lights me up? That was my number one mistake, is I went into a business for the wrong reasons, because I saw a way to make money, and money was the main driver, and I don't believe it can be the main driver in real wealth.
Yeah.
So that was number one. And then the second thing was the way I'd treated money was a total reflection of how I felt about myself, because self-love, in my opinion, is the key to success. Because if you don't love yourself unconditionally, it shows up in every area of your life. The food you eat, the way you treat your body, the people that are around you and the way you allow them to treat you, partners, relationships that you fall into. It manifests in every area, including your bank balance, because if you don't love yourself to eat the right, enough to eat the right food and be around the right people and be treated in the way that you deserve to be treated, then you probably don't love yourself enough to be paid a fortune either. So I'd almost sabotaged my own success because I'd got this money that I didn't quite feel that I deserved, or that I didn't quite respect the way I'd gone about getting it, because I knew it wasn't my true mission, my true calling. Therefore, I'd just unconsciously spent it all, and put myself back to where I felt comfortable, and that was being broke, because that was the same pattern that was playing for me back, going right back to beliefs and things as well. So I recognised all of those things and thought, okay, I need to do something radical. So it would have been so easy for me to go out and do what I knew how to do, and that was get more contracts in nightclubs and earn money fast. But I knew that it would only lead to the same destination. So I made a radical change, and I moved out of nightclubs and that industry completely, totally immersed in self-development, and started a radically different business in coaching, and decided that actually these things that happened to me didn't happen to me, they happened for me. And now that they've happened for me, I can find a way through them, and I can help other people through them. And that became my main driver. It was more about others than me, and not having for other people to go through the same things that I'd been through to get to the success that they want, and hopefully draw on my experience and my mistakes to not have to go through the same pain.
Yeah, it's yeah. Oh, I was having so many of everything that you were saying there, for sure. So going really technical, I guess, what did you start to do? What things did you do differently the second time around?
Firstly, I hired a coach. Well, I hired multiple coaches. I knew that I'd got some things to learn. The first thing I needed to really get to the bottom of was why I was self-sabotaging money. So I needed to do more work on money mindset. So I hired a money mindset coach. I then started studying the subject of money, because I went to a seminar and a lady on the stage said, if you want to be great at something, then you need to study it like an academic would study to become a doctor. So, if you want to be a public speaker, then you train hard and learn the art of communication. If you want to be wealthy, then you study money. And I thought, of course, I've never studied money. I haven't got the first clue about how to deal with finances, and I hate numbers. So there's no wonder I couldn't make it work. So I started reading lots of books that, I guess are quite boring books about numbers and figures and where to invest. But I thought, I've got to do it. So I started throwing myself into all of that. And then I hired a coach that could teach me how to build a coaching business. And it was the most huge amount of money I've ever spent on self-development. And I felt sick as I was spending it. And I knew that if I didn't do something and work super hard and commit on a level that I'd probably never committed on before, then I wouldn't be able to live. So it's like burning your bridges behind you. And I always say to my clients, as awful as this might sound, I'll say to them, what's your goal? And if they say, 10 grand a month this month, and I say, and how confident are you that you can achieve it? And they're like, I don't know, maybe like a 5 out of 10. And I say to them, right, if I was going to come to your house tomorrow and murder everybody you care about, unless which I never would, but if I was going to do that, if I was a psycho that said to you, if you don't bring in 10 grand this month, I am going to come and slaughter everybody you love, would you do it? They were like, 100% yes. Then it'd be a 10 out of 10.
Apart from that weirdo that I've got in my family that always runs out of it.
Yeah, you can take that one. And the answer is always yes, then I would make it happen. And I'm like, well, that's the commitment, that's the focus, that's the energy you need to put on your goals now. And that was kind of the commitment and energy and focus that I had, because in my mind, I had no other option now. I was flat broke with bills to pay, and I've never had the sort of relationship where I can go to family for help. It was a case of I'll lose my house, I'll lose everything, and I'll end up living in the spare room of my mother-in-law's house if this doesn't work, and that, or having to get a job. And I think the job bit terrified me more than anything else.
Yeah, it's and I was just going to ask, how do you balance that, being really focused with your goals and your vision, but also have that sense of letting them go as well, so you're not approaching every conversation with, "Hi, do you want to work with me? Well, let's do this," or I'm on a kind of, that you've got the right energy behind it, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's a difficult balance. And I think I think a healthy dose of obsession is good. From a manifestation point of view, I think we need to be consumed by our goal, like just one thing that you're really working towards right now that will make all of the difference. When I've got a goal in mind and I change them regularly when I hit them, I change my passwords to my computer to that goal. I get my husband to remind me of it every single morning when we wake up. So, for example, when I was really going for my first 40 grand month, I said to him, every morning when you wake me up, I want you to say to me, "Hello, 40 grand a month earner." And it was just this constant reminder. And I had Post-it notes all over my house with that reminder. So I don't necessarily release it and let it go. I'm still focused on it all of the time. However, what I'm focused on when I'm talking to other people is them, their goal and what they, and they allow that to consume me on the same level that my own goals consume me.
Yes. And also as well, not making it like having that approach. I certainly do this with acting as well. I never approach a meeting or an audition, even if it's an amazing opportunity, with "this is going to change my life and this is going to be amazing." I remember getting a job years ago, and it was for a whiskey commercial, and it was going to pay me £17,000 for a day's work. And they called a couple of days later after I'd got the job saying, "So sorry, you're not going to be able to do the job because you're not 25 yet and you need to be 25 to advertise alcohol on TV." And that was just but I've just I'm thinking about my house deposit. I'm thinking about all of these kind of stuff. But I think just knowing that, being open to the opportunities of other things that might pop up along the way. So instead of going, right, this is going to be the client I'm going to sign up, or this is going to be the man that's going to make my dreams come true, you can have that, well, I don't know who's going to call me tomorrow or who I'm going to meet. And sometimes money comes in really bizarre ways.
Exactly. And that's one of my mantras. I walk around my house every morning like a crazy loon saying over and over again, I am a money magnet. Money flows to me easily and effortlessly from multiple sources and unexpected outcomes. And it does because I believe it does.
What healthy habits do you do every single day that really help your money mindset? Apart from, obviously that would be a really good one as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I think, three things that I think key components to having a fierce money mindset. I'm not going to say bulletproof because I don't believe it ever is, because you're still going to get scared sometimes and you're still going to worry sometimes, and that's natural. But I think there's three components. There's a manifestation point of view, so the energy and the vibration that we're on in order to attract the woo-woo stuff, if you like. There's the subconscious and the science stuff and how that actually works in terms of the decisions we make instinctively. And then there's the financial mastery stuff. So if I give you one out of the three categories, from a manifestation point of view, one of the things I've recognised is for you to be on the right energy level and vibration to attract what you really want, there has to be no resistance and no conflict. So a lot of people will get frustrated when manifesting money because they think it's not showing up quick enough, and they start to doubt. And the thing is, normally that's because there's some sort of conflict or resistance in the messages they're sending. And I was guilty of this for a long time. I'd sit down in the morning and I'd set and be these massive, outrageous goals, and then I'd walk into a shop and say things like, "I can't afford that." And so it is. I was sending two conflicted messages on the same day. So I stopped myself from saying things, I changed my dialogue. So you will never hear me say I can't afford that. It doesn't mean that I spend outrageously. I've learned my lesson there. But what I will say instead is, I don't love it quite that amount, and I'm choosing to save at the moment.
Yes, and that just puts you in a powerful position, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you feel more empowered rather than putting you in this state of lack of and there isn't enough. Because there is enough, there's always enough, and money is just energy, and there's an infinite source of energy in the universe. And, the other thing is the feeling that you have when you part with money from a manifestation point of view. So I used to get really anxious whenever I paid for something. So I'd be at a checkout buying shopping or treating myself to something, and although that should be a joyous experience, I felt guilty, I felt anxious, I felt scared, and I almost didn't want to hand the money over when I got to the cash register.
Yeah.
So rather than allowing those thoughts and feelings to consume me, I started to have this little mantra that I still do today. Every time I pay for something, I say to myself silently, plenty more where that came from.
Yes. Yeah, and that could have been another limiting belief of, I like my money where I can see it, or, it's much better in my hands than their pocket, and you just don't know where those beliefs might come from unless you look at them.
Exactly. So it's just changing that dialogue, that inner dialogue that we have with ourselves around money, and gratitude's great for that, because I can remember when bills used to come through the door and I'd think, oh God, another bill, and I'd hate the fact that I have to pay it. Whereas now I'm like, oh my God, my water bill's here. How grateful, how lucky am I to have water that comes out of a tap?
Yeah. And it just shifts you immediately into a different kind of headspace.
Abundance rather than, scarcity and resistance. And that's the key thing there. And from a subconscious point of view, I think we just have to work really hard to understand what things have been stored in our subconscious that are playing out and causing unconscious patterns for us in money. So a great way to do that is to just sit silently for a couple of hours and really give yourself some time to do this exercise. But just have a pen and paper where you're going to have no distractions, and just empty your head onto paper of everything that you can remember that is a negative experience about money. So whether someone stole from you, if you had an argument about money, a family member like mine that was negative about money, or even if you knew somebody that's really wealthy and they're not a very nice person, write it all down. And when you've got all of that stuff on paper, go over each one and just say out loud, if you can, thank you for the experience, but you no longer serve me. Cancel, clear, delete. And scribble out every single line on that piece of paper, and then rip it up or burn it and get it gone. And because your subconscious is very obedient, it stores everything for you to make your life easier. But what it doesn't realise is some of the things are making your life more difficult. But if you tell it to release it, it will. And what you'll find is you feel lighter after doing that exercise. And I like to do that about every 3 months, because the messages of the world get in, don't they, on the TV? Or
Yeah.
So I do this kind of mind cleansing process every couple of months now, and I found that really powerful.
I did something quite similar a few weeks ago, and I had that sense of when I was looking at those limiting beliefs, and it wasn't just about money. I did things about, what I thought about myself, and there are a few things that I had to take a step back and look at the piece of paper and go, really? Oh wow, you actually still believe that on some level. And yeah. I was actually quite shocked doing the exercise, because I was like, I'm a 36-year-old woman, why am I carrying that around, and why do I think that that's important? And it's really fascinating. And I think sometimes we can say, oh, we're too busy to do these kind of things, but that alignment that you mentioned earlier is so key, that we have to make sure that we're building from those strong foundations, because otherwise it's just messy, and you're going to come up like one of those what's that they always say about it on grand designs, that root or something, that suddenly it just destroys things. So it's really important to be aware of that. I've just got one final question, which is, where would you like to be in 5 years' time?
Do you know, this is a funny one, because I'm really in a place in my life now. I said this to my husband last night as we were getting into bed. It's crazy. That he mentioned something about when in our next house, and I said, do you know what, James? Great. We've got big goals to do more, of course, but if I was to live out this day today, every day for the rest of my life, I would die a very happy person.
Oh.
I'm just so happy that and fulfilled in every area that I really feel like for me now, my goals are more about who I can serve. So I get a real buzz from getting a message from a client or seeing a client post in our group saying, oh my God, I've just had this breakthrough. I've just earned more money today than I earned last year. Or that is what really makes me tick now. So my big goal for the next 5 years is to help 1 million women to financial freedom. So and how I do that, it's a difficult goal to measure, and that's what I'm kind of figuring out at the moment, because there's some people, I've got a book that talks about this stuff, and you don't quite know who's reading it. So it's about, monitoring book sales and seminar attendees, but I want the combined figure to be 1 million in the next 5 years, and that would make me really happy.
Wow, amazing. If people want to come and find out more, where should they go?
You can find me on Facebook. I believe there's just one of me with my name, so Michelle Stonhill. You can visit my website, which is just michellestonhill.com, and there's some free downloads on there for you to get your hands on as well that just help you to delve into this area a little bit more.
And give yourself permission. Oh my goodness, permission comes up all the time, because even when you talk about your Sunday night things, you talk about 10-figure days and not 10-figure days.
Wow.
Yeah, easy. Bugs. Anyway, on your Facebook you talk about 10k days, and even when somebody might look at that, they're going, sorry, what did she just say? Because nobody really talks about that kind of stuff, of really going, yeah, that's the kind of money that I want to earn.
Yeah, it's taboo. It's like a dirty subject that no one discusses around the dinner table, and it's ridiculous. That's what's keeping people playing small. It's not a dirty subject. Money is great. You've got to love money and everything about it in order to attract more, because love is the highest expression and the highest vibration that we can be on in the universe, because I genuinely believe that everything starts and ends with love. And, if you love money and you're consumed by love for it, then you attract more of it. So not talking about it and ignoring it and not nurturing the relationship you have with it is a big mistake.
Oh, so much food for thought. Thank you so much, Michelle. Do you know what I want to do right now after we come off this call? I'm going to check my bank account. That is something, and I meant to say it earlier actually. I think I said it on the podcast a little while ago, but I had 3 counts of fraud on my account last year, and it was really horrible and really stressful at the time. But do you know what it makes me do now? Is check my bank account every single day, be really conscious of what is in there, why it's in there, where it's come from. And so there was a weird kind of lesson in there, and now I tell everybody else, because sometimes I do find people go, oh, I don't know where my money comes from, or I actually don't know how much I earn, and now I feel like I can spread that message a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I've loved chatting. Have a lovely day. I can hear that beautiful heat, and I hope to see you soon.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.